Guys, I just got back from Texas, and I'll tell you...
Are your arms tired?
Boy, are my arms tired.
What?
I just flew back from Texas, and boy, are my arms tired?
I said I just got back from Texas.
I know, but the typical joke is... Never mind.
How was the barbecue?
It was good. I had one slice off of one brisket. I guess that's all I had. I had to lunch on the fly, and it was barbecue, but the barbecue sauce was really good.
So you got a refund for the ticket, right? Because that's the only thing to do in Texas.
Is just get refunds for stuff?
No, barbecue.
Oh, yeah, it was good. It was delicious. It was great, but it was hot as balls down there. It was 35. I don't know what that is in American. 320. But it was so freaking hot, and it was very sunny, and that was great.
Was it muggy?
No, it was like a dry heat.
Man, that's the thing that kills me about the East Coast. I go down to Maryland and DC sometimes, and the heat is not bad, but Jesus Christ, you're breathing soup.
Yeah,
I can't handle it
because it was a lot of heat. Not a lot of goth girls, and you guys know that I like to occasionally look at goth girls.
You?
Yeah,
No.
I mentioned it before. I'm still on the hunt for a goth girlfriend.
Welcome to It's a Mimic with your DMs, Adam, Dan, and Terry.
Welcome to another episode of the It's a Mimic podcast, the round table Dungeons and Dragons discussion where you never know what you're going to get. My name is Terry. With me, as always, on my left is Adam, and on my right is Dan. And today we are talking about the Shadowfell. Are you guys genuinely excited about the Shadowfell?
I actually am.
Yeah?
Yes.
I feel like this is leaning into more towards of that kind of dark, tragic Dungeons and Dragons like play that I enjoy. Adam, are you looking forward to this one or not? And of course, I know you seriously enjoyed the Feywild. I know this is completely the other way. So
No, I have not ever felt happiness.
I see what you're doing there. See, this is a bit that I understood immediately what Adam's doing. Sometimes I stare at him like, what the fuck are you doing? It takes me a while to figure out what's going on. Okay.
No, what? I prefer sad and emotionless Adam to angry and yelling at me because I've said something stupid at him. So I'm on board with this.
Don't you let him think that you said something stupid, okay? If you say that to him, now he thinks that every time he says it, it's warranted.
It is.
Fair one. Okay.
No argument.
Well, let's talk about the Shadowfell, guys. We've done our episode on the Feywild, where the Feywild, I think Adam gave a really great description of it, where it's like you've turned the contrast up on your TV, you've turned the color up, everything is much more exaggerated. It's a very emotional plane, and the way that I view the Shadowfell, and you guys can jump in if you feel that I'm viewing it differently to you, is it's not necessarily a plane focused on death, but it's more focused on not despair, but like lack of emotion. It's like gloom. It's like as though the people there are not really feeling anything anymore.
It's full of apathy.
They're just stuck in this stasis where they're just going through the motions.
Just for the most part, I would say your average citizen is. There's a big perspective or a mentality in the Shadowfell that your soul is not fulfilled,
right?
And not everybody has a soul like your regular villager.
Now, the word I would use is melancholy. The entire thing is melancholy.
Yeah,
melancholy. But I think that there's the apathy too of they can see the murder happening in the street from their bedroom window, and they close the shutters and they won't be bothered. Where there's that little bit of... It feels Victorian to me in a lot of ways.
It does feel Victorian, and it feels like Tim Burton-esque, but Tim Burton sometimes is more caricature style, but it's like as though if Sweeney Todd was really, really dark and even more gloomy than it is. Or it makes me think of like Gotham City sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, but again, Victorian and darker again. I love some of the mechanical changes that are involved with the Shadowfell can be used with the idea of light to the person using the light source will not travel as far, yet you can actually see that light source from further away. I think these are all optional rules that you can use. So you really need to adjust how you're playing in that world, and as a DM, it gives you another few elements to think about to make your game much more creative. So you guys know a little bit more about the background of the Shadowfell than me. If you guys want to share anything on who some of the bigger players are and some of the lore, because when I was doing my research, I found that it's actually changed over the course of editions. The Raven Queen, for example, a big player in the Shadowfell, wasn't introduced until 4th edition, and it actually isn't discussed that much in 5th edition. I think it's mentioned in Unearthed Arcana, I think, somewhere, and that's it.
The Shadowfell has been around for a very, very, very long time in Dungeons and Dragons, and it's they call it an echo plane, but I've heard it called mirror plane and whatnot as well.
Yeah,
right?
there's depending on how you do the planes in your homebrew game or whatever, it'll have a different property to it. But the way 5th edition does it is it's something called the Great Wheel model of how to do planes. There's also the Great Tree model where everything is very Yggdrasil looking, and then there is the Great Axis model.
I'm sorry, Yggdrasil looking?
Yeah.
You have to explain that to the people that don't speak nerd.
World tree. So everything is branching off from the central material plane. That's what it is.
Which looks like a trunk, and then the further out you go, the branches and leaves and the canopy.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Great Wheel looks like a big old circle. So you have the material plane in the center, and then you have the planar echoes of the material plane, which we've already talked about. One, which is the positive side, which is your Feywild, and then there's the negative side, which is the Shadowfell. And then surrounding those is your ethereal plane, and then as you go out, you get further and further.
You get your elemental chaos and
all the way out there, yeah.
No. It's right outside the ethereal plane.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then in 5th edition, and then beyond that is your outer planes, which is your everything from the 9 hells to Mount Olympus to the happy hunting grounds. And then beyond that is the far realms, and there's a bunch of other shit too, like the astral plane and the plane of dreams, and there's other weird shit out there.
So one thing I did want to bring up that I forgot to mention earlier when I introduced the plane was that it's the same as the Feywild is compared to the material plane in that it's very much a mirror effect, but there will be an adjustment. So we talked before about how the Feywild, you could have like a castle ruins would actually be a beautiful like elven sort of palace or something. But then at the same time, on the other side of that spectrum, the Shadowfell is mirroring those ruins as something else. Maybe some sort of like gloomy like castle, some sort of gothic castle, which is very different to kind of 2 planes over that elven type palace that we might have there. So you're going to have that mirrored effect throughout this entire plane as well. It hurts my brain when I think about if one change is made in one plane, how do we know that same change is being made elsewhere? But I try not to think about that too much.
That's always my complaint about Stranger Things too, when they go into the upside down.
Yeah.
Right? And you can see like, oh, and the fridge was open. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do we stop there? Why did it not close again when the person... Okay, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's you can only go so far with the thought process.
Even if somebody builds a castle on the material plane, how the hell did somebody build a castle on the...
I'm going to hand wave it and say destiny or fate.
Yeah.
Like these
it's
places...
all part of the bigger... Yeah.
Yeah,
bigger
right. And so the big thing is, what are the big entities that are at play here? And I think you wanted to talk about that.
Absolutely,
right? Right, so it's the entities at play that I would say are winding fates together.
The Shadowfell is very much about undead and death in a certain sense as well. So a lot of the major players have something to do with death or pulling on the cosmic strings of life, right? Like those are the kind of guys you got. So you have the Raven Queen, who is the straight up goddess of the Shadar-Kai, who we'll talk about in a minute. She makes her home in the Fortress of Memories. Her entire shtick is she is there to gain memory and trinkets of the past for great events that happen of trauma and tragedy in people's lives. That's her big shtick. She's kind of bled over into kind of being the goddess of the transit from life to death. She's not the goddess of death. She's not the goddess of life. She's in the transit space there.
I absolutely love that because that pits her against Orcus.
Yeah, and quite often it does.
And frankly, we should do a mini series or something about the gods. I don't want to do a deep dive into the Raven Queen tonight.
Yeah, fair enough.
But there's a lot of good stuff from the Raven. Raven Queen.
And I was going to bring up, you already mentioned him, Orcus. Orcus is not in the Shadowfell, but he is constantly trying to get in there to get the undead that is in there. He has no hold there, but he's a frequent mention. You can't mention the Shadowfell without at least mentioning Orcus.
Is Orcus aligned typically with any particular race?
He is a demon prince of undeath, and no, he's not really... he's the undead god, basically. Next you have Shar. Shar was really big in 4th edition. She still exists in 5th, but she's a much smaller thing. She is the creator of the Shadow Weave, which is one of the interesting things about the Shadowfell, where it has its own source of magic. Shadow magic itself is separate from the Weave, which we talked about in the Feywild episode, which is where all of magic comes from. Mystra in Forgotten Realms lore created the Weave so that people had magic. Shar is kind of the shadow version of Mystra and made the Shadow Weave, which is where all shadow magic comes from.
So was the Shadow Weave involved with the Spell Plague then? Was that still tied together? Or?
I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I don't know what the 5th ed version of it is.
Yeah.
It's a little convoluted at this point.
Yeah.
It really truly is. And then there's a couple other handful ones. Like there's the god of thieves called Mask, who lives in the Shadow Plane, who has been killed and resurrected, and then killed and then resurrected again. He's all over the place. There are shadow dragons within the Shadowfell, which I bring up because they're a little 2-page thing in the monster manual, and they are just basically a template for normal dragons who spend too long in the Shadowfell, and the Shadowfell corrupts them and twists them to have very Shadowfell-like traits and
now,
whatnot.
are they linked to being just chromatic? Are they metallic as well? Either or?
They are mostly chromatic.
Okay.
But there are some metallic ones. And they are often stuck in the Shadowfell trying to get out. But they get a fun little shadow breath weapon that if it reduces any if it reduces a humanoid with that damage, a shadow rises from the corpse immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So if this dragon kills you with its breath weapon, you come up as a shadow next turn.
That's crazy.
Right? These things are amazing. They have abilities within Shadow that you would expect, like bonus to stealth and whatnot. They have a sunlight sensitivity, like you would suspect with Shadow. So, like, these are your major players, and quite often all of these things put together are called the Dark Powers. Right? And there's a bunch of other weird deities and whatnot that are in there.
There's a lot of them, and I do mean a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be, I've heard, a council of hundreds is what I ran across in my research.
Yeah.
Most of them unnamed, unseen, and barely known. Mm-hmm. Right? So you can really do whatever the fuck you want with these guys.
Yeah.
So is this like some sort of Shadowfell Illuminati?
It's not that they're the Illuminati. Think almost... it's not Shadow Council. It's otherworldly gods looking down upon you from a cosmic perspective, right?
Yeah.
They are gods.
Yeah.
They may be lesser gods, but they are gods. But nobody knows what they are because they're dark and they're just wreathed in shadow, and you don't know. In my opinion, I like one of the. My favorite thing is that it's the rest of the pantheon that just put on these dark shrouds and go to the Shadowfell and try to wrestle for the fate of the souls that are there.
Yep.
Without direct intervention, and that's a deal that they have, right? Like that was somebody's interesting, like that.
So they might show face on the material plane and reveal who they are.
And they're Corellon and they're Lolth and they're Mordrin but then they go over to the Shadowfell and they're deep, dark, mysterious, shadowy figures. I thought that was a really cool twist on it.
Actually, I like that idea, and I will remember that should I ever run a campaign in the Shadowfell. Again.
Again, yeah.
The last big player that is within the Shadowfell that's not part of the Dark Powers are the Shadar-Kai. They are Shadow Fae. They're basically another type of elf.
Yay, because we needed another.
They're more edgelord than Drow, but less evil than Drow. They are the minions of the Raven Queen. They worship the Raven Queen. They're all about the Raven Queen.
They're emo elves, okay.
They are very emotionless, and they're near Vulcan in the incredibly controlled emotional side of things, right? So, and they're elves.
Is it controlling emotion, or is it just not feeling emotion at all?
So in the DMG, there's a optional rule called the Shadowfell Despair. The Shadar-Kai are so enthralled in this that they the taint and the darkness and the melancholy of the.
Oh, we're not going to mention taint. We're just going to move. All right.
We're just going to move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Of the Shadowfell have twisted them to become emotionless. Right. It's a form of madness to them. So there is, starts with apathy. It then goes to despair, and then it's just utter madness.
Yeah.
So I would say that the Shadar-Kai, especially since they serve and live within this realm, they're just emotionless killing hunters. That's all they are.
They're almost monk-like.
They're very monk-like, yeah.
I really love everything about the Shadowfell and the Feywild, and I love those two planes as being like almost the next immediate planes from the material plane that you can move in and out of as long as you do it carefully without too much consequence. Yeah. But I like having them immediately available to use. It's great.
We mentioned in the Feywild episode that there was, these thin veils in reality. Like if you're going gallivanting through a forest, you could accidentally end up in the Feywild.
Well, we have these with the Shadowfell as well. You're talking about shadow gates.
Yeah, but I like it where if you just wander into the mists, there's always mists or fog or
shadow.
Or just shadow.
Or just darkness, right?
Yeah, one of the examples that I've read is oddly deep shadow in the corner of a crypt. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And then you walk over to it and it's still a corner. And then you turn around and you are now within the shadow.
I like even the idea of like walking through ruins or a castle, even the covering like above a portcullis where it gets dark, that tunnel as you go through, even there.
Exactly, yeah. And then as soon as that happens, you have this weight that you realize, like you walk through and something's just not right. It's other dimension jumping.
There's a dread on your soul.
Exactly.
There's doom in your pores.
Very kind of Silent Hill, right? Where you don't necessarily realize that you crossed. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so I have a thought. Can I derail for half a second here?
You can derail, yeah.
All right. Speaking of the gods of the Shadowfell, right? The major players. One of my favorite things from Greek mythology is the three fates. And they're often three sisters. They're Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. And Clotho spins and actually weaves and has a spinning wheel and creates the thread for each person's life. And Lachesis is the one who weaves it together with everybody else. Mm-hmm. And Atropos comes through and cuts it, and that's the end of your life. And I always love the idea that the person making the life, Clotho, is a fae, like an archfey. And then Lachesis is in the prime material plane, looking over the literal magical weave.
Yeah.
And then Atropos is in the Shadowfell.
And would you use these same names, or would you maybe assign these duties to other gods?
It depends. I love their names, and I love Greek mythology, so if my players don't know them, I'm going to steal it, right? But then I love the idea of Atropos there, and so this is where you get your mirror from. One of them is making, one of them is using, and the last one is ending. And maybe you have to go deal with the fates themselves to resurrect somebody or to kill the big bad. You don't need to get into a showdown. Just go to the Shadowfell and talk them into using their magical scissors and cutting a literal thread, and that person will die.
Yeah.
On the prime material plane.
Yeah,
I just think that's a really neat idea, and I've kind of been waiting for the Shadowfell
to kind of roll that out. Yeah. I love that idea. I love creative things like that. So it
gives us something beyond the regular D&D pantheon to play with there, and it really gets your players thinking bigger picture, and also the idea of the echo planes.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
love it. Okay, well, before we go into some encounter ideas from each of us and some campaign ideas using the Shadowfell, is there any last minute things you think that the audience needs to know before we move on?
It being a echo plane does not just mean if you walk across some ruins, they're going to have a darker, deeper version of those ruins, or the forest, everything's going to look a little bit more lifeless and gray. This is going to apply to your major cities in the realm as well. In fact, Neverwinter, which is in the Forgotten Realms, has a famous other
Let me try and remember the name. Evernight.
Evernight.
Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. Evernight is a city populated by mad necromancers and undead and functions as a normal city just in the Shadowfell, and it is a mirror of one of the biggest cities in Forgotten Realms, if I'm not wrong, of Neverwinter.
Definitely goth clubs in that.
Oh, 100%. And they have the little blade-like logos above the doors where only vampires are allowed in this
and
one.
Familiars.
Yeah, right?
So, okay. All right, so let me get this straight. There's the Shadowfell, which is all about not death, but undeath. Because undeath is an unholy mirror of what death should be. It's life without a soul.
Yeah.
Or without purpose, right? Is undeath. How does that fit with necromancers and liches and skull lords that have wants and needs and souls and power? And
this is the place where they are the safest to pursue their interests.
And I guess they're manipulating the undead.
I would say, yeah, they must act like demigods in this plane.
Yeah.
And so this is where, I really like this. I even like the idea of hags being in here and the curses they're putting on the mortal souls and whatnot. You start to lose me when we're into flesh golems and when we're into werewolves, because now all we're doing is we're just dealing with the Universal monsters from the old Universal movies.
Well, it has a very Mary Shelley feel to it.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily undeath at that point. We're constructs, we're lycanthropes, and these things are not... I mean, you can make an argument that constructs fit, but I don't like werewolves in the Shadowfell. It doesn't suit.
Well, there's no light, there's no stars, there's no moon, there's no sun. It is a black voidless, or a black void dome as a sky.
Which, yeah, so I'm fine with wolf men, but don't we already essentially have that with gnolls?
Yeah,
right?
Werewolves would make more sense in just a gothic city on the prime material plane.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's... so me, personally, I dislike werewolves in the Shadowfell. I just wanted to throw that out there. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Fair enough. The other thing is, and we'll bring this up a little bit later with when we go a little bit deeper into Strahd and the curse of Strahd. Good old Strahd. A lot of people have said there's not a lot of support for the Shadowfell in terms of campaign arcs and everything else like that. There is the Curse of Strahd, which does exist, and there's the old Ravenloft campaign setting, which exists. But in 3.5, there was another adventure path that was released based around the Forgotten Realms city of Cormyr, country of Cormyr. And it's called Cormyr Tearing of the Weave. And it is one of the modules that was right before 4th edition came out, and it was setting up the start of the Spell Plague, which was fantastic.
Awesome.
We would need someone to actually adapt that for 5th edition.
You would have to adapt it to 5th edition, but if you are a somewhat experienced DM and looking for something in the Shadowfell that doesn't involve Strahd...
And it's not too bad. It's all stat blocks and magic items that you can, a little bit of time, you can get there. Okay, team. Well, we're going to move on to encounter ideas and campaign ideas. But first, as always, let's cut to commercial. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Hello and well met. It's Daniel, the keeper of arcane secrets. Sorry about that. Anyways, I'm here letting you all know that you could find and listen to the Call of Cthulhu actual play Halloween miniseries right now on the It's a Mimic feed. I have been anxiously awaiting the opportunity to share it with you all. So, check your podcatcher, YouTube, or www.itsamimic.com to check it out. Thanks, and on with the show. Man, I gotta get this cough checked out.
Okay, team, topic 2. We'll get to roll some dice here. So first of all, I want us to present, each give 2 encounter ideas. Once we've been around the table with those, we'll start to talk about campaign ideas. Grab your dice. Are you ready to go? I felt like my dice is very Shadowfell.
3, 2, 1.
What did I get?
We
one?
we
literally read 3, 2, 1. So
that was actually...
Who got 3, Dan?
I got a 3. I won with a 3.
I'm going last, and Adam's going second with a 2.
All right, so hold on. So we're doing encounter ideas.
2 encounter ideas.
Are we going to do 2 of them at once, or are we going to go around twice?
Let's go around
twice.
Cool.
Okay. My first encounter idea is fighting a group of Shadar-Kai trinket hunters who are... You would hit this right as soon as your party has experienced some sort of loss, like an NPC death, or they didn't quite win the final battle as well as they hoped, and the Shadar-Kai have come to obtain some sort of artifact from them, usually by force, to commemorate the event. So you are fighting these Shadar-Kai, these shadow elves, who are popping in and out of the shadows. They are very thief-like and thief-oriented, and they're coming through and they're stealing important trinkets like the neck piece or the signet ring of your fallen compatriot or something like that. That's what they're going for. Something that your party actually cares about as a commemorative piece from this encounter or this player or this person, and won't want to give up. Just grab something like that.
They need Oscar's codpiece.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So the stress for the players.
That's why they send like 6 or 7 Shadar-Kai to handle it, because it's just a massive codpiece.
Because that's how much it takes to find it? It's
No. It's that big. They need all the hands to carry it. And they're pansy elves. Anyways, Carrie. Oh, wait,
I wasn't even second. So.
Yeah, Adam, you're next.
What's up? All right, so you guys are not going to be surprised when I say this, because you've both run into this in the past. But I think that the Shadowfell is ripe for the concept of prophecy and curse. And so the very first thing that I would do is I would drop a mystic, a seer, a psychic down there, and I would read their fortunes, and I would say, hey, guess what? You are going to run into this, you're going to run into this, you're going to run into this. And lay out the entire, your entire plan ahead of time. This is a hook that's going to keep people interested because, and I would use metaphor, right? One of the things that I've done in the past was I introduced a prophecy of you see in front of you a barrel, and inside the barrel is the swirling cosmos and great power with a loud roar that comes out of it that pierces your ears, right? They're not going to literally run into a barrel in the future, but they did run across dragon blood, and they filled a barrel with it. And the dragon blood is very powerful and imbued all of their weapons with magical properties and whatnot. And so that was the metaphor. Mm-hmm. Hit your players with metaphors and tell them what their futures are, and watch as they try to figure out what that means and how that's going to help.
And for a lot of DMs out there who are saying, well, I'm not going to throw prophecy at my players because, I can't prophesy how the campaign's going to go. I find a lot of prophecies that you give players, the most bullshit things, are kind of self-fulfilling.
Well, yes. What do you mean? Okay, before I go off, what do you mean?
You have given me once a prophecy that, a red streak across the sky or whatever it was attacked my character, right? Yep. And I don't even think you understood what that would be. You're just all like, no, it's a red streak across the sky. That's when something like that happens, I'd be like, yeah, that's totally a prophecy. Because remember, prophecy is also vague. It doesn't have to be a direct, like, oh, yeah, you're 12 noon in 5 days, you're going to get attacked by. Don't do that. It's got to be a streak of red will cross your path in the future. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when you get attacked by the Vashtani caravan and they're all wearing the red robes, and they attack you by meeting you in the middle of the road.
It could be a cardinal type Aarakocra, right?
Right.
That flies in. It could be
a dragon could fly across your path.
A winged kobold. One of my favorite things is a scaled stranger. Well, is that a lizard folk, a dragonborn, or a man in scale mail?
Yeah.
Right.
And your players will add the weight to it because they will try to make it happen. Like they'll be like, oh, "Is this my prophecy?" And then they'll
run right at it like Terry running into the mouth of a T-Rex. But prophecy can be very vague, but you can also drop it in the same order. And what they think is this the prophecy turns out that it's not the prophecy, and then it blindsides them with something else later. Right?
Yeah.
And so you can use, if you are vague enough and you are crafty enough, and you can sit back and you've done it for all of your players. They don't know whose prophecy is coming in what order. Mm-hmm. And if there's 3 or 4 different steps in each, you can sit back and say, you know what? It's been about 3 sessions since we've had a big dramatic character moment. Whose prophecy is up next? What do we have in my notes here?
Yeah.
This person is going to see a golden spear that ends the life of the lamb. I don't know what that means, but hold on a sec. Hold on. All right, let me figure this shit out. And then you can hit them with this, and they're all waiting for it, right?
Yeah.
And so whether it's at a literal golden spear, or it could be a golden needle.
I feel
or my favorite thing is the gladiator named the golden spear, right? Like it could be anything, and that's.
I think you could challenge yourself as a DM here and literally have when you're doing these prophecies, a random table and roll on the random table what it's going to be. Because you know that this isn't going to go into place for sessions and sessions and sessions.
Yeah.
So it can just be fun. Like, oh, well, I have this collection of prophecies now. They're all kind of messed up. They don't really make sense, but we'll see where we go with them. I think that will teach you flexibility, guys. So a lot of people reach out to me all the time asking how they can stay flexible and learn those techniques of acting on the fly. That'll help you. There's a little bit of training for you right there.
But again, the reason that I say for the Shadowfell is because these are your players are heroes. They're going to be the brightest souls in the realm, right? So anyone with a magical bent will be drawn to them, and prophets and seers and psychics will know that they're there and be able to see their future a little bit. Because by contrast to the rest of the world, they are neon lights.
Yeah.
Right? So
I had for my encounter idea a puzzle. I talked to you guys before about how I like puzzles within battle. And I don't necessarily want, if it's a battle encounter, not necessarily to reduce all the hit points to zero is not how you win, but to complete whatever the task is without dying, essentially.
Yeah.
And I had this idea to introduce newer players to planar travel is to do it on a much smaller scale, which is you will have your battle map.
shrink them down.
Shrink them down.
Yeah.
Absolutely shrink them down. Have it
Everyone's a gnome. Dan's happy.
Everybody's a gnome, which means Dan
perfect life.
Dan then becomes a sprite or whatever.
Yeah. Let's be honest, Quasit.
Yeah. But say have the same map but in the mirror plane, and have a number of different shadow gates or use items around so that your players, say if the puzzle is to get from the bottom of the castle courtyard up to one tower or something, in the Shadowfell, the bridge might be broken. In the material plane, it's not, and so they can go over the bridge there, but then they'll have to go into the Shadowfell to get through the next bit, and so they're kind of hopping in and out.
I like that. Oh, and you give them either
So are the enemies.
You give them either the light portal or the dark portal at every place, so they can go into the Feywild or the Shadowfell to figure it out.
Exactly. That's going to the next stage. But what I also like about this is there is going to be times now where the party will split themselves between planes.
You silly motherfuckers.
Because, and this is just the rule of initiative, somebody goes through the shadow gate before initiative 20 and the other people go afterwards, right? Or one person goes through into the Feywild because they're on that part of the puzzle. You can split that party 3 ways.
And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of spells that say as long as you're on the same plane.
Yeah.
And that never comes up in a campaign, right?
But do it on a smaller scale like this where you can control it a lot more. It's very fun for the players. Takes away the nerves for planar travel. You as the DM become much more comfortable with it. You get yourself a great, interesting puzzle, and you get to start to learn to think on the fly a little bit as well. Yeah, and use those special rules for spells, such as being on the same plane. So, yes.
That's really awesome. I actually played a video game that did that once.
It's called Portal.
No. It did it with time. You could move forward like 500 years in time or go back. So, like, you'd get to a river and you'd select your character to move forward. So time would progress 500 years and a bridge would appear over the gap and you would cross the gap and move on to the next puzzle.
Oh, man.
Or you go backwards and the river dries up.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
It was a pretty fun game. Anyways, my second encounter is... it's a bit cruel, but I've always been a fan of tweaking with players' backstories. Your player that has like the most beloved character in their backstory, whether it be like a kind uncle or
kill them.
No, worse than kill. You make them pass along them on their way, on their journey through the Shadowfell, and they have succumbed to the Shadowfell despair, and they are sitting there, and they're these to these characters, these paragons of joy and life and excitement and all these good Feywild-esque tendencies, and they stumble across them, and now you have to deal with this person who is despair driven, depressed to the nth degree, sitting on the side of the road, practically just weeping on the side of the road, and now your players have to justify this and solve this problem and try to build this person's spirits.
See, I wouldn't have them weeping though. Weeping is something I expect in the Feywild, where it's emotion ramped up.
Yeah, weeping is emotion.
That's passion. I would have them sitting there
sobbing then, to themselves.
Still no. I would have them dejected. I would have them completely apathetic, hollow, detached. It's like, what are you doing here? Why go anywhere else?
Yeah, or that. Yeah.
Right? And I think that's more Shadowfell. It's not the negative emotions. It's the lack of emotions. Right? Am I wrong on this?
No.
Okay.
You could go either way, in my opinion, for the Shadowfell. You could go negative emotions because...
But that's the unseelie
It's not
court.
that they feel sadness, it's that they don't feel anything.
Yeah. See, the sadness and the rage and whatnot, that's the unseelie court in the Feywild.
Yeah.
As far as that's my interpretation. And of course, this is open to interpretation.
Yeah,
so.
right. And the however you do it. But like I would have this character who is this paragon of joy of this person's past be a wreck in front of them in whatever that sense is, so that they can now have this social encounter of moving their mentor into a caring, less apathetic, or even just happier position.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it. Trying to kind of, pull them out of the darkness.
Yeah, pull them out of the darkness, yeah.
Oh, you know what? You can go deep with that stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm kind of on the same page as you, but so let me paint you guys a word picture. Your party has found a fey creature, whether it's a satyr or it's a sprite, or probably a pixie maybe.
I hit them with my longsword.
Something that is very jubilant and excitable, and almost to the point of being borderline annoying. They're just like, come on, guys, I'm just really excited about this. They're a freaking halfling on speed, right? Like whatever it is, you have this creature that they have to get to the sorrowful princess by whatever who's in the Shadowfell. But when you get in there, systematically, as day by day goes by, this creature is sapped of its will to live and its life. And you know that in 8 days, this creature will die. And you have to get 6 days away.
This is reminding me, this is almost like getting closer to Mordor.
Yeah, and it's slowly sucking out. And if you don't get them there, that's it. You fail this quest, and that creature, I don't know, depending on your party, clear it first, but like opens its wrists, or they find it hanging by a tree. There's no will to live anymore, or they lay down in the gutter and refuse to move, and they just want to die. And if you pick them up and move them, they will just stop breathing. And it's not like they're holding their breath; they just don't have it in them anymore, right? Whether it's the slow, apathetic despair that takes them, or they just say, "Why bother?" Right? And they get really, really big picture depressed. Yeah. Capital D.
This is something you're going to want to talk about in session 0.
Yeah, you'll have to be... Yeah, I think this could be a great... definitely emotional campaign for the players to go through. You would have to strategically break it up with moments of comedy and happiness.
Well, I think that if you have to go 6 days or 8 days or whatever it is that you got to go, it's 3 sessions. Right? And then at the end of the 3 sessions, the character either makes it or doesn't. Can't make it back, is doomed to die regardless. Mm-hmm. And maybe signs up for a suicide mission for the greater good, but you have to watch it.
Yeah.
You have to be there and see this happen. And then that's horrifying. And now you have to go back to the Feywild and you tell them, and the Fey creatures are like, well, everybody dies, who cares? Mm-hmm. Right? By the way, have you seen this brand new thing? It's called a thimble. What the fuck? Right? Yeah. And like, then you break it up from there, right? So,
yeah.
But I love the idea of just taking that break out to get, to get David Tennant, Doctor Who, upsetting, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that. That's what I want.
That's awesome.
Your turn.
Guys, good ideas. Well, my last one, I was happy with my first one, but this one maybe doesn't seem as exciting. I'm always trying to think about the new players. How can I help the new players introduce them to the new planes if they're nervous? And so before I had that single encounter idea of bouncing between the gates and being introduced that way. But then I was thinking about the idea of the what the hell's the name of the key keeper in the Matrix? You know, he's kind of running around with the keys.
I am the gatekeeper. Are you the keymaster?
Keymaster, gatekeeper, yeah, or whatever. It's something.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, no, that was Ghostbusters reference, Terry.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You can't do things like that because the internet realizes I don't always know what I'm talking about. And then I have this like reverse nerd shame where it's like I'm not nerd enough or something. I don't know.
I love the fact that the first Matrix reference we really pull out is from like one of the crappy sequels.
Okay, I'm not going off on a segue on how you're just fucking wrong on this. First of all, the sequels were not crappy.
Listen, Underworld. You don't get an opinion on the Matrix sequels.
Underworld was also not shit. Okay?
Yeah, but they go hand in hand. They're there with blade, latex and trench coats. Let's move on.
My idea of this gatekeeper being a person who knows where the shadow gates are, can lead them to them, lead them through them at certain times, however you want to put it into your campaign. But the players have a more guided approach in and out of the Shadowfell.
Play them like this NPC that is leading them through. Play them like the Alan Rickman's robot from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh, the depressed Marvin.
Marvin, yeah. Just, and here we go through this.
Well, hold on. There is... shit, it's been a while since I did the Fiend's breakdown. There is a Fiend that is the boatman from Life to Death.
It's a Yugoloth.
I don't know. I'm not going to get it. Anyway, if the Raven Queen is all about, the transfer from life to death, then you can actually, you can have this boatman be the guide.
Love it. Anyway, that was my idea. It was this gatekeeper type idea, just to, again, speaking for new players, so they have a much more, a much easier introduction into the Shadowfell. Cool. And because we're just talking about single encounter, I felt like meeting this gatekeeper could work for them. But now I want to think bigger scale. And we can even. But you guys want to roll initiative again?
Let's do it.
Let's roll.
We didn't get to roll for the first
two campaign ideas. We'll do 2 laps.
I like it.
Okay, let's go. Dan, you go. Okay. Adam, moi.
We all rolled an 8.
We all rolled an 8. That's the first time ever.
All right, that's it. Podcast over. I quit.
Okay, bye.
That's it.
It's 3 infinity symbols. That's what it is. That's really upsetting with the Shadowfell theme.
Yeah. Why is there a screw in here, Dan?
I'm a carpenter. At least I was a month ago.
Fair one. Oh, you bumped me back up to an 8. That's not even cocked. 15 for
Adam.
15
so Adam,
for Adam.
Go first.
13 for Dan. 8 for Terry. Deliberately so.
Campaign idea?
Campaign idea, please.
Your entire party has been brought together because their souls have been stolen, and the upper and lower planes are after them, and they're wandering around the Shadowfell as ghosts, disembodied spirits.
Okay, now what does this do for roleplay, though? Is this going to affect...
If they get your soul and they manage to drag it away to an upper or lower plane... When you get to one of those planes, whether it's the 9 Hells or Mount Olympus or whatever, bam, your body goes and you don't come back. You hit the afterlife, you're done. And if you go to the lower planes, you come back in as a mayonnaise, sorry, not a mayonnaise, a mayonnaise.
Like Hellman's?
or a Lemure, right? Because that's it. And if you go to the upper planes, and you end up as a low-level celestial, right? And
he's going to have a party.
Miracle Whip.
Now, this is what you know. I do this because I like getting fucked up. So, I'd be fine with this. But you got to have a party that's going to be okay with their perfectly crafted superhero character getting a bit fucked up, and they've got to adjust along the way. But I love that idea.
But I love the idea of, remember Peter Pan having to sew his shadow back on?
Yeah.
You have to negotiate with your own soul to get it to re-inhabit your body.
And your soul's been there longer than you, so it is far more depressed than you are.
I love the idea of the shadows, like in Ghost, Patrick Swayze's Ghost. Good movie. Watched it the other night. Dragging you off.
Yeah. I think that it's amazing because you can have hags that are there that are cursing, that are dooming your soul.
Yeah.
Right? Or that have thrown it in a soul cage and you have to go deal with it. You have other ghosts maybe that don't want to give up the soul. So now you've got mid-level undead campaign or encounters rather. And I love the idea of there being a necromancer. And because you don't have a soul but you're technically walking, they can control you. And the DC on all of the necromantic bullshit is through the roof.
Yeah.
Or you have negative modifiers to do damage or
That's really
something.
Good.
Right? So
like
it's soulless campaign. And I figured that I could probably get a level 5 to level 10 campaign out of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
For me, I've got a heist idea for a Shadowfell campaign.
Is it to go get your souls?
No, it is not to go get your souls.
Then I'm not listening.
It is to go get memories. It is to go secure the memory of a cursed archmage from the Fortress of Memory, otherwise known as the Raven Queen's home. You and your party have to break in, find the Hall of Mirrors that contains this one archmage's entire memory bank, retrieve it and bring it back. I would definitely have this be like up until like level 15.
I love the idea of you planting like the seeds of whatever this Archmage's history is, and then you have to go through their memories and watch their apprentice die in their arms, and you have to live these historical moments from this big hero or whatnot. To go. That's
or
really fun.
Villain.
Or villain.
And you realize like this is the guy who is like the cause of the region's troubles. He's just forgotten and become a drunk bum on the side of the street in the city.
Oh, I would do it the other way around. He was just like us until that one fateful day.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you see how he has evolved as you're walking through this guy's memories. He's involved each character in some way, shape, or form in his plot. And then you have that emotional moment of this guy has been manipulating me from my birth. And here I am saving him. And you have that weird conflict within your party. I love this idea. And you get to deal with the whole, breaking into the holiest of holy sites for an entire race of people. That's the Shadar-Kai. And you're heisting a god's treasure. It's like heisting a dragon's treasure, just so much worse. So,
can you please stop saying heisting? Heisting is not a word. Thieving, stealing, I'm with you, but heisting is not a word.
Robbing?
My character's name will be
You rob a person, I guess.
Stevie Lake or something like that. But yeah, instead of Danny Ocean, because
we play D&D very differently.
I, for example, need Dan to fuck off. Terry, what do you got?
I deserved that one.
I like to watch the show. I got inspired by the show Outlander. You guys ever seen Outlander?
I saw the first 3 episodes and went
A bit cheesier first, but when the budget goes up.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'll revisit.
Okay, if you don't, guys at home, if you don't watch Outlander, it's very good. Go and watch it. But spoilers for Outlander in 3, 2, 1, go. Basically,
hold on. I'm plugging my ears. You do your thing.
No, Adam, you got to just deal with it.
Yeah, I'm plugging my ears.
Okay, plug your ears. Okay, Dan, see where he's plugging his ears. Okay. Have you seen it?
I know it is a favorite of Midwestern housewives everywhere.
I'm sure it is. It's probably the most exciting thing they've got going on. So basically, she goes back in time, she meets somebody, but then when she goes back to the future, she has lots of clues because it's a historical thing where she figures out what might have happened, and then she can go back and put that into play what she thinks what's happened. So that's time related, but I would have it planar related in that all of the clues for what you're looking for are maybe on the material plane, and then when you find a clue of whatever you need to do to develop your campaign or to develop your plot or get to the next step in your campaign, you have to enter the Shadowfell at that point and see if you're correct.
It. Absolutely love it. And you could start doing weird things like
taking your books, reading your books, doing your knowledge in the library. Okay, this must mean the gate is here, and when we get through, this is what's on the other side.
Exactly. No, I absolutely love that idea. Yeah. Adam's tickling the hamster. We should probably let him go.
Okay, you guys stop talking to pull my fingers.
Yeah, we just turned around staring at you.
So you know that thing where if you don't want to hear, you've got to put your fingers in your ear and then move them in and out or back and forth or something to get that wah 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 so you can't hear.
Otherwise, what is that? Is it your own blood you're hearing? What is that?
That's probably someone else's, frankly.
Air pressure against your eardrum, I would.
Anyway, I didn't catch a word of that. I think Terry said Shadowfell at some point, but that's to be expected. I didn't catch anything. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh shit! I got to edit this episode.
Yeah, you do.
Sidebar. I have now listened to it. Everything's spoiled, and editing sucks. All right. Okay. So campaign idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Second one.
So you limit the races that people can play right off the bat. You allow elves. You allow gnomes. You allow the Gith. You allow some of the more monstrous creatures. Drow maybe. Depending on where they're from. And then you reveal when everybody is there that there's no such thing as a prime material plane. Whatever evil gods happen, one before session 1 hit. And so now it is your job to take part of the Feywild and part of the Shadowfell and make a new prime material plane. Using the echoes to try to put it together. But you are elves or gnomes, whatever, from other realms, so you don't know what it looks like at first. And so this is a full 20th level campaign because you need huge magics to be able to do this shit. And you are there to figure out what happened to the prime material plane, what happened to all the souls that were there, who killed it in the first place, and what can you do about it, and can you rebuild it?
Yeah.
So I'm going really broad strokes on this. And I think that you've got a balance, and I would make it so that you could accidentally destroy the Shadowfell and the Feywild by merging them together and balancing the two, and there's no more Shadowfell or Feywild.
Well, that's quite the consequence of messing your campaign up there, Adam. It's usually just that you die. But now
I figured that by level 20, you're usually plane hopping and saving the world and shit. Go big.
Yeah.
Right? And there's nothing much bigger than the world doesn't exist anymore.
I love planar travel, to be honest.
I do too. I find it very daunting.
Yeah.
Just because each plane has its own shtick, and how long can you stay on it before you get bored of it and need to move on to the next one. So planar travel is a lot of plane hopping for me.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I could run a Feywild campaign for 20 levels.
That's fair enough. Yeah. So mine, I loved the idea of Orcus trying to get into the realm. So I would have an entire campaign focused on your party planar hopping, however it is, but your major play piece is going to be within the Shadowfell, is fighting against Orcus and his cults and everything else to prevent them from entering this realm. And the thing is, you are going to have to directly fight the necromancers and the undead and everything that call this place home to get through to the cultists. So to make this a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more enticing, I would place this in Evernight. I'd place this in this massive Shadowfell urban campaign of you are trying to crush this Orcus cult within this realm that wants him to be there. So you're constantly having to fight all the way along the way. And along the way, you attain several key NPCs and allies, like maybe a gold dragon that's become a shadow dragon and has this inner conflict within himself to help the party, but also to devour them because of this Shadowfell taint that's over top of him.
There's that word again.
So,
Look, I think that's a brilliant idea. I wouldn't restrict it to a single city. I like the idea of it being a hex crawl, and you can tell your players at like level 3, assuming you're going 1 to 20. So you tell them 15% into the campaign where all the gates are. There are 13 gates because 13 is a great number, right? And you need to get 7 before Orcus gets 7. And you've either got to find cultists and interrogate them to find out which one they're going to next. You have to fight everything around the gates in order to gain control of them, right? And you have to either seal them or set up protectors or whatever it is, but you give them a whole world and the clock is ticking, right? Yeah. And if they don't interpret the signs appropriately, they secure a gate, but Orcus was over there and secured one too. You went to the wrong gate.
Yes.
And now it's just a race.
Yep.
Back and forth across the map for 20 levels. I mean, you make your friends and your allies and whatnot as well. It's a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
But you're in the Shadowfell going back and forth because now you're in the vampire region and then you have to go into the necromancer region and you know what the map looks like. And you're like, oh shit, you know what? We can do ghosts. I'm not up for liches yet, guys. We're going to say that one till later.
Yeah.
And you're strategically planning based on your character level.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I like that idea. I would just take
it.
I like the urban. The urban would be a section of it, and I would give them a big ass hex crawl map to play with.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Good idea though, Dan. Me? I'm going last, hey? I like the idea. I would use this in a campaign for perhaps a follow-up campaign, or if you get to the point in the campaign, where you tag DMs in and out. And it would be for the next one because it would involve the death of a beloved NPC, in which their soul then moves onto the shadow plane, onto the Shadowfell. And perhaps the party, their first part of their campaign is that they will maybe reach out to the Raven Queen or something to maybe negotiate a deal about how they can bring their soul back. But instead of getting the Raven Queen, they actually get a trickster god. And the trickster god says, for their personal enjoyment, they are willing to honor the deal that if they can find the soul, they'll bring them back. And it's about them moving through the Shadowfell to locate this soul, but would maybe leave them hanging for a day or two as he thinks about terms or something to give that soul, let's say, a 2-day head start as they kind of make their way through. And the campaign, the reason I did it follow-up campaign, because now a newer party, because again, I'm thinking from the idea of newer players, now be more comfortable with planar travel. They're also going to be at higher level now. So because we're saying maybe don't run the whole campaign in the Shadowfell, you're going to be at higher level where you can have much more interesting and more deadly encounters for that short-term mission they have, which is actually to locate one particular soul and retrieve it back for them to get their beloved NPC back.
I like the idea, too, of, they watch the body get destroyed, but the soul still needs to be saved.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is where you get your high-level magics like reincarnate.
Yeah.
Right? Or sequester. You've got to weekend at Bernie's your way through this, right? You have this body that nobody can see that you need to protect.
Yeah.
Right? And so, sure, it ends if it takes damage and nobody can hit it. But, man, a hot enough volcano, right, will just do ambient damage, and it's going to wake up the body. At which point, if it wakes up without its soul, now it's dead. And
you could do a twist on that one as well, and have the soul be on its way to its final resting place, and it doesn't want to come back to the body, right? So now you have to go down to.
That was my favorite gut wrenching, the big punch in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where, spoiler alert, I guess in 3, 2, if you haven't seen it already, you probably won't. She dies with 2 seasons left.
Yeah.
And then she comes back and hey, we rescued you from hell. And then the big twist is, no, she was in heaven and this place is horrible now.
Yeah.
By contrast. And she doesn't want to be here anymore. And she just wants to go back to heaven. But what's the point of life? And that feels very Shadowfell to me, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea of you go and you can get to the soul through the Shadowfell and you summon it back and oops, they were in paradise, guys.
Yeah.
And you just fucked that up because you wanted someone that could cure fucking light wounds. Right.
Oh, rough. Okay, team. Well, that's everyone for two encounter ideas, 2 campaigning ideas. We're going to go, once we've done a shout out here, we're going to take a little dive into Curse of Strahd. One of the more...
the Curse of Strahd, eh?
Curse of Strahd.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Strahd
What's
being
that
definitely one of the more famous D&D characters. But first, Adam, do you want to give us a shout out and then we can dive into it?
No, but I'm sure Dan does.
Dan, you doing it this time?
I'll do it. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you
Adam, you want to do it?
Right, Dan, you just got the book Descent into Avernus, right?
It?
Right, I'm doing it. I forgot.
You just got Descent into Alzheimer's, didn't you?
Apparently. It's these weird vodka sodas. I got Descent into Avernus. I thoroughly enjoy the book.
I love how you've already shortened it to Avernus.
Avernus. Descent into Avernus.
Into a furnace.
Into a furnace. Well, it is hell, and it's hot. So it's a great campaign. It's got a lot of interesting things.
Really quickly, what is the campaign?
You are... I'm trying to do this spoiler free for everybody.
But you start in Baldur's Gate, and then you have to go down to hell.
You start in Baldur's Gate, and then you go into hell to solve a missing city.
That's descended into hell?
That has descended into Avernus, and then all of the politics around that.
Is it an urban campaign?
No, very much no. You go all through Avernus, which is the first plane of the 9 hells. It is the first level of the 9
How do you
hells.
travel?
You can do it by foot. You can do it by horse. Even though
you can do it by rail. You can do it by plane.
No, but there are very...
Technically you are doing it by plane, aren't you?
I hate you both. There are very Mad Max-esque demon vehicles. That is a new rule they've thrown in.
Not demon, that would be devil vehicles.
Sorry, devil vehicles. Infernal vehicles that they've brought in that are absolutely wonderful. And there's everything from a motorbike all the way up to a big Sherman tank.
How are they powered?
Soul coins. You get a coin that is loaded full of soul, and you drop it in like it's a freaking pinball game.
It's loaded full of soul like someone's soul, or it's loaded full of soul like it's
like James Brown?
Like it loves jazz. You hold it, you tip someone playing the saxophone on the side of the road, right?
Why not both?
Okay.
So you drop this thing into the car to make it go.
And that's it? It's just coin op?
It's coin operated, yes.
But it's soul coin op?
But having these coins also give you a bunch of other boons and whatnot to them. You could pull parts of the soul to yourself to heal yourself.
That's horrible.
It's amazing.
That's dark.
And she's on the cover of the book, so I'm not spoiling anything here. The big bad is Zariel, who is the queen of the first level of
mermaids
of the Nine Hells. And that's Ariel, not Zariel.
Okay.
Yeah. And she is a fallen angel who came down to fight against the Blood War because none of the Celestials wanted to. And she slowly became corrupted by Avernus and, of course, Asmodeus. So it's a great book.
Is he a plot point? Like, is he?
He is a plot point.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's
those who are big Critical Role nerds would love to know that Archon the Cruel, played by Joe Manganiello. Joe actually wrote a section of this featuring Archon and his whole...
I love you guys are on first name basis, Dan.
I would love to be on first name basis with Joe Manganiello. Anyways,
he's a werewolf.
I thought he was a type of orange.
Isn't he a vampire as well?
In True Blood?
Yeah, doesn't
I didn't. When it started getting really cheesy, I didn't watch it anymore. But
yeah, I never watched any of
now.
True Blood. I never watched any of it. But anyways, it's a great book. It's got a lot of really interesting things that you could put into your campaigns, like the vehicles. There's a few additional new kinds of fiends that are within it, as well as a bunch of new backgrounds, a bunch of new magic weapons and magic items that you can throw at your party as well. So I recommend it. I'm loving every minute of it.
I managed to flip through it, and the one thing that I found was it actually has the infernal script in it, so
Yeah,
you can see
it's got the
letters.
alphabet.
It's got the infernal alphabet, which as a language nerd, my nipples are hard.
What does this sound like? Klingon? I imagine it sounds like Klingon.
It looks like Klingon.
It looks a little bit like it looks like Latin Klingon. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks a little bit like Latin Klingon.
Huh.
That oddly makes sense. I'm on board with that. Yeah, that tracks.
Anyway, so I guess our shout out is to Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say sponsor us, but they're just not going to approve
No, please sponsor us.
anything that we talk about on here.
No, not even a little bit.
I don't understand why they wouldn't. Oh, Dan, I've had quite a few shout-outs about the cuckolding that we discussed in the last
We're just going to move on to Curse of Strahd, right?
Wizards of the Coast, reach out to us.
Ignore that shit about the codpiece earlier.
Or don't.
Yikes.
Curse of Strahd.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
so, Dan, you're going to talk to us about Strahd and his lore.
Yep.
Background on Strahd. Adam, you're going to give us an overview of Death House.
More or less.
And I will give the Curse of Strahd campaign overview without spoilers after that.
Yeah, we're going to be trying our hardest to stay spoiler free here, but
so for those people out there that are interested in published module in a demi-plane of the Shadowfell, Curse of Strahd's a good idea. Okay, 3, 2, 1. That was a fucking 17, you bastard.
Who?
Dropped down to 11.
Who hit you?
Who's purple?
I was.
You.
Well, Dan hit me first, so I think
I did not. I'm
Dan,
so
this
far
was
away
your
from you.
fault. You tried to avoid it.
It is not my fault.
You
I
tried
tried to avoid it.
blame.
All right.
I tried to avoid contacting your dice.
Okay, so I rolled a 14 ultimately, so I'm going first. First and foremost, the thing that I want to say is, God damn it, Dan.
There you go.
First and foremost, the thing that I would like to say,
I would drown you, revive you, and then drown you again.
you guys literally did that to an NPC in a campaign.
Oh, that's when I fell in love with
really?
that idea.
You weren't there yet. You guys, were you DMing this, Terry? Did I do this? Where we walked across the water, there was a guy in a boat tossing a body over the side of a...
Yeah, oh yeah, I was
the
DMing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we
So you say you did this.
I did this. I just remembered that I did
I
this.
allowed it to happen.
So what happened was there was a guy dumping a body, and then we went over there. We ran across the surface of the water, and we hit the guy. No, we hit him with a rock first.
Yeah,
and then I
you
was
knocked him out.
and he fell face first into the water. And then I was a cleric, and I went forward. And I'm like, no, we can't kill him. And then I brought him up, and I realized, oh, wait a minute, he's evil. He was dumping a body.
Yeah.
All right, fine, fuck it, kill him. So we dropped him up again into the water.
So they drowned him, brought him back, realized he was bad, and drowned him again.
Yeah, and then just stole his boat.
Just stole his boat.
Fairly certain my party did the exact same thing.
And that was in Curse of Strahd.
That's in
too.
Curse of Strahd, yeah.
So I don't know if that's in every Curse of Strahd that happens.
Doesn't strictly go down that way, I don't think.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna try to stay spoiler free for Death House because honestly, of every published module that exists, Death House is my favorite, even more so than Curse of Strahd. So what I'm gonna try to do here is give a really, really, really brief breakdown of what you can expect with it to a certain degree, and then I think how I would twist it and use it myself to fit any campaign. So Death House is it's like level 1 to 3 mini campaign. It's in the back of the Curse of Strahd module. The PDF is also available for free online. And the fun thing about it is that it's milestone leveling system as well. When you get to this part of the house, you become level 2. When you get to this part of the house, you get to level 3. And that's it. I think that's the only module that does that. The rest of them all hand out experience points.
They give the option to do it as milestones, but I don't think there's any hard...
Avernus straight up gives you milestones.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the idea with Death House is you are in Barovia, and I don't think you're in the Shadowfell version of Barovia. You're walking down essentially a lonely road, and you see mists all over the place, and you end up running into a couple of children in the road. And the road is in like Barovia itself. This is a row housing as well, right?
Just off the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Sorry, you said you walked out on a lonely road. I had to say something.
You really don't. You really don't have to say anything. We're gonna work on this, Dan. So I miss Megan.
She did very well, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed.
Apparently.
So, Dan won't listen to that because he's not in it.
The It's a Mimic Show with Adam, Brad, and Megan.
So, anyway, it's a haunted house, but there are these two children that stop you and they say, hey, there's a monster in our house. You need to help us. And the mists continue to force you towards the house. And there's all sorts of rules in the Curse of Strahd book about what the mists do to you if you spend too much time in them. So it really does railroad you hard into this house.
Yeah.
But, I mean, honestly, you should have some sort of social agreement ahead of time with your players to say, yes, we're doing this. So when these two children show up and they're like, hey, we need help, they answer the call of the hero, right?
Yeah.
So you go through. I love the kids' names, too. They're Rose and Thorn. And I just think that is my perfect level of cheese when it comes to gothic horror.
Yep.
Those are their nicknames, not their real names. But there's everything that you would want in a haunted house as far as specters and animated items that can attack you. And it's really exploration more than anything else, because you can move throughout the house kind of at your own pace and explore and learn the fact that this was a cultist's house. And the cult worshipped Strahd, and a bunch of shit happened, and the house keeps burning down and disappearing and then reappearing again. And no one in Barovia wants to go near it because the house keeps regrowing. And so you get to find out what the deal is with the cult, how Strahd is involved, and there's a little bit of a twist to that as well. And what's up with the kids, because there's a little bit of a twist to that. So there's a couple of twists and turns, very kind of like The Haunting of Hill House had a couple of twists and turns to this.
Good show.
Yeah, it's funny. I read the book, and then I saw The Haunting, and then I saw the show, and the show is my favorite version.
Really?
Yeah.
More than the book?
Well, the book is a little dated. But anyway, I don't know. I really like the fact that they've got a den full of like taxidermied wolf carcasses. And like, it's really, really atmospheric.
The one attic that has all the furniture draped in white cloths.
Yeah, and you get to go through the different, like, they have a library and a conservatory and a ballroom. Like, it's the Clue Mansion, right? But it's scary. It's isolating, and your party will inherently, because it's exploration, those idiots will split the party. And when you're a level 1 person wandering around by yourself, a specter will fuck you up.
Yep.
You are essentially a CR quarter creature because you're part of a party that's a level 1.
Yep.
Right, going up against the specter CR2.
Something like that, yeah.
Right, and that is enough to just fuck your world, right? It's surprisingly deadly. And as much as we all sit around and say, oh, in a scary movie, I would never split up. We'd all go together. Fuck that. I'd never leave the doorway. You doing this.
But when you're low levels, when you're level 1 and 2, splitting the party can be as much as I'll run and see what's around the corner.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But the other thing that I really like about this is that there are 2 different ways. And I mean, okay, I got ahead of myself. There's a basement area with all sorts of creepy crypt-like shit in it too, which is kind of where you're headed, right? And it's a matter of getting there. And it feels very Resident Evil 1.
Yeah.
Which I really like. But I like the idea that you're given a choice at the end of it to do something that will appease the cult or piss them off. They will either succeed or they will lose. And then you have to deal with the consequences. And it's a hard decision to make. And I really, really, really enjoyed that. So I like this as an introduction. And ideally what happens is you complete the campaign module and then you go into Curse of Strahd at level 3.
Love it.
I would start a lot of campaigns. If you got people that never played Death House before, play it this way. I managed to put together a pirate ship that was lost in the mist. We've talked about this a couple of times. It was a ghostly pirate ship that existed between worlds. And it got lost in a swamp and it ran aground. And it was full of cultists and they ended up digging down into the muck beneath the pirate ship and creating tunnels and a labyrinth underneath as well. And I literally just flipped Death House upside down. Yep. Instead of going up to the attic and then you got to find the crypts, I went down into the storage hold and then further down into the mud and the grossness. The idea is that this is really, really, really easy to skin and to reskin or to reflavor how you want, because the monsters can just be replaced with another monster. The room can be widened or narrowed or skipped completely. Or you can change it to be something else. I want a laboratory. I can do that, right? I don't want specters. I'm going to do a mad scientist laboratory. He's an alchemist, and there's flesh golems all over the place, right? And now I'm doing tier 2 encounters. It's very, very easy to reskin Death House. And if you guys have never done it, do it. I'm telling you, DMs, find this and run it. Reflavored how you want, because the exploratory factor is really good, and I love the atmosphere that's in it as well.
Death House is the only time in recent memory I've had a player come up to me and say, okay, so we're not doing that again, right? Never again. I was not okay with the level of horror and atmosphere you put in here. Like, he did not want to drive home at the end of the night because he was legitimately scared.
Well, that's good. That's a compliment to you as a DM, though.
Well, you guys absolutely hated it going through this ship as well, right? Because you guys nearly freaking died at the end of it. As I ramped up the difficulty and the horror, I saw that they've got a nursemaid's room, and I went, oh, I can do shit with undead babies. That's fun. And I'm like, what is my dilemma at the end? If I don't want to use a cult, what do I want to use, right? So, and I ramped up the horror for, well, you guys are level 13, and I just flipped the house upside down.
Yeah.
Right.
It was really good, though.
And it was
awesome.
But a lot of my descriptions were right out of it. You guys had stuffed tigers instead of stuffed wolves, right? That was the level of detail that I changed. And so I can't recommend this high enough. Of all of the shit that Wizards has published, this is my favorite.
You like Death House?
Yeah.
Death House is good. I actually really like Death House as well. Okay, well, I was going second, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
what's the Curse of Strahd?
Oh, that Curse of Strahd.
Well, yeah, Death House naturally moves on to Curse of Strahd, and I will try and do this as best I can without spoilers, okay? If you are planning on running Curse of Strahd, or you're interested in the idea of it...
Can you say Strahd just once for me?
Why do you want me to say that, though?
Because it's hilarious.
Strahd.
Yeah, you fucked it up.
No,
you ruined it.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the sound of air rapidly deflating from a balloon.
Curse of Strahd.
Curse of Strahd.
Did you say Strahd? With an O?
Strahd.
Without AWD. Strahd.
I'll try and do this without spoilers, but I'll let you know some of the more fun parts of this campaign as well. Curse of Strahd is unapologetically very much what?
Strahd.
Strahd. That's how you say it. Strahd.
Strahd.
Okay, you tell me how you think you say it.
Strahd.
Dan, how do you think you say it?
How I say it?
Yeah.
I say it's like Strahd.
Strahd? Okay, so this like old
Strahd.
Eastern European...
Strahd von Zarovich, yes.
No, oh my god, no. All right.
Strahd.
Say his whole name, Terry. You've said it properly since day one.
Von Zarovich.
Yeah.
No, it's
Strahd von Zarovich.
Strahd von Zarovich.
Listen. It ends with an ICH.
Yeah, no, this is the whole thing. This is the whole thing that happens in North America. Is we take Eastern European or German sounding names and fucking change them, which is why everybody becomes things like Weinstein. And so, was it Albert Einstein? It was Einstein.
Yeah,
Zarovich.
And I understand why they've changed a lot of the Eastern European thing. I mean, this is a fallout from the World Wars, right, where they don't necessarily want to be associated with the German or the Ukrainian side of things. But, however, I do want to say, God damn it, Dan, Aldrich Horrors has that ITCH. Von Zarovich is ICH. You flip them. You say Eldrick and Von Zarovich, and it drives me up the wall.
Yeah. I would argue that
it's also Polacki.
to the day. Fuck. Here's another thing though. I really like it because I lived in Germany for 4 years. I really like a particular German type of beer called Warsteiner, which gets called here Warsteiner. Hey, do you guys like Warsteiner? And I'm like, it's fucking Warsteiner, and you hurt me every time you say it.
Well, you hurt me when you say Strahd.
Curse of Strahd. Anyway,
yeah, right back to you.
Sound like the guy from the IT crowd who's stuck
Curse
in the back.
Curse of Strahd, COS, is very much is unapologetically railroady. And you can veer off the tracks a little bit, but what it does for DMs is it gives you a set path to follow where you're not thinking about the players going off on crazy tangents and you're not able to bring them back. What I love about Curse of Strahd is you have this railroad track that you can follow, but they can kind of go off in different directions, but ultimately all leads to the same route. I know that sounds vague, but I'm trying not to spoil it. There's prophecy involved as well, and your clues are given with regards to certain items you can find, certain places that you should go to. And ultimately the DM is aware of where Strahd will appear for the final battle. What I also love about Curse of Strahd is that there's very much a relationship with Strahd as a big bad.
He's probably the most fleshed out big bad.
He appears often and will converse with your party. He will, and I did it in such a way that I locked 2 players in a room, sat down opposite side of a desk, and conversed with them for a long time. Freaked them the fuck out because he was not scared. I even went as far as got my big bad, and this isn't in the book, to present them with an arrow that he knows will cause, with a radiant arrow to know that will cause him damage. Because he was essentially, he was a show of force. He was peacocking. He was saying, here's the thing that would kill most undead, but I am not afraid that you have it. Excuse me.
All right, so hold on. The reason that we're talking about Curse of Strahd is because it exists in the Shadowfell.
That's correct.
Death House gets you into... like you're in Barovia, but then you end up in the Shadowfell version of Barovia where Strahd is. And the big thing in Curse of Strahd is you can't leave, right? Like you're trying to get out.
Yeah, you cannot leave. You're trying to find your way out.
And you're in a valley surrounded by mists and mountains, and you can't get out of the valley.
So the theory is, to the players soon becomes, well, if we kill Strahd, we'll get out of here.
Yeah,
it's because of this person this vampire that we're still here.
And he even goes so far as to tell you that, like, you're here to entertain him.
But just to be clear, this isn't the Shadowfell. This is a demi-plane. This is an offshoot of the Shadowfell.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. And this is sorry, guys. This is a campaign where you have to be very careful that at first you are there to entertain Strahd, but as you become more powerful, he soon begins to see you as a threat, and that's where it's at the DM's discretion, he starts to become more deadly. There is no set time when you should have your final encounter, and this is a campaign which is great practice for those of you that have trouble adjusting for when players go off the rails, air quotes, because you can put Strahd in, take Strahd out, use the other NPCs, the lieutenants that are out there for encounters, and essentially there's no rails to go off of in the sense that the final encounter can come whenever you want it to, and really, ultimately, wherever you want it to. There is a guideline on that, but you don't 100% need to stick to it.
One of the things that I really liked about this, remember we did our episode on Big Bad Evil Guys? We talked about lieutenants and captains, and the general isn't necessarily the person running it. There are, like, lieutenants built right into this, right? Terry, lieutenants?
Lieutenants, yes.
Okay, I'm trying.
Thank you.
Strahd.
Lieutenants. Yeah. When we invented the English language in English, we were like...
Bullshit. When you stole it from every other language?
When
we saw the Spanish, the French, and the Latins.
When we stole all of their words and told them how to say it, we were like, we can't wait to go and colonize the Americas so that suddenly we can all start speaking from the back of our throats. from right here.
Curse of Strahd.
And then those people can tell all of the other people in the world that they're from their countries and confuse them. Hey, I'm Irish. And the Irish guy's going, no, you're fucking not. What are you talking about?
I feel personally attacked right now.
You're French.
I will not have this blasphemy on my podcast.
All right. Okay. So hold
Maybe
on.
this is why you surrender so often.
So, oh,
Woof.
oh!
What?
I love it. That's.
Well, I'm not scared. I'm English. We haven't been beaten by the French since 1066.
I'm pretty sure the French were directly involved in the American Revolution, but you don't learn about that in schools, right?
No, it never happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like how Canadians burnt down the...
No, we are literally taught in British schools that we have not lost a war in 1,000 years.
Well then.
Yeah.
Really?
Does the sun still never set on the British Empire?
and any other case has been strategic withdrawal.
The Americans do much the same.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not go down this road, shall we? So one of the things that I really like about the Curse of Strahd campaign is the fact that there are really 3 or 4 main locations, and one of them is Castle Ravenloft, right?
Yeah.
But I was a player. How much of the castle is actually laid out in the book, and how much of it did you create?
Yes, it is laid out in the... DMs, listen to this. It is laid out in the book over about 34 pages, and it is fucking... If you're going to follow it as a tactical dungeon crawl, it is very difficult. I would give yourself a rough idea of what is in each room, and good luck with that. I literally had to draw it out on a map, which I kept screwing up and had to do it 1,000 times over several maps. But this is just a great time for you to practice a little bit of improv, definitely a lot of theater of the mind if you can. If I was to go back and do this campaign again, I would rely much more heavily on theater of the mind. But you need to read this campaign through, particularly the dungeon crawl of Castle Ravenloft, a couple of times, because there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. So is that me?
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about the Death House. We've talked about an overview of the entire campaign itself.
But let me ask you, Daniel, who is Strahd?
So
When you get right down to the person he is.
Strahd von Zarovich.
I don't give a fuck if the internet's screaming at us for this one either. I'm telling you right now, you fucking colonials. Can I call the audience that?
You have on multiple occasions, so I'm stopping you now.
Okay.
For those of you that aren't in North America, we apologize.
Yeah. For those of you in Europe, everybody's like, yeah! For those of you where else, I don't know. America.
You know there are other countries in Europe other than Britain, right?
Yeah, but they're all part of the UK as far as... Not a part of the EU, though.
No. We're not getting into this.
We love
Anyways, so Strahd von Zarovich
Yep.
is the son of King Barov and Queen Ravonia.
Ravonia.
Yeah.
Like Raven, but Onia.
Yeah.
Let's see what they did here.
So they were
I just praised Rose and Thorn, but I'm booing Ravonia.
They were a very expansive, focused family of Eastern European flavored. Like a lot of it's got. He's based directly off Dracula. Like let's just make that.
It's pronounced Dracula.
Dracula. Based heavily off Vlad the Impaler.
Dan, it's Dracula.
No,
You have to roll the R.
I'm not doing any of this.
Very much based on Dracula.
So, actually,
Strahd.
what happened was
Worcestershire. I love those memes where it's like nobody knows how to say Worcestershire. I know 64 million people that can tell you how.
All right, Dan.
So, anyways, Barov died, and Strahd went on this rampage and cleared out this lush, verdant valley of all of the people who fought back against him. And when he finally settled,
I gotta pause you because I know a little bit about this. Are you staying spoiler free too? Do we need to warn people? Because
I'm going to try to stay as spoiler free as I can.
Okay,
here.
All right.
Yeah. I will end at a very certain point and be like...
Right, but I'd like you to get vague, too, about things.
Yeah. So, Strahd cleared the area, liked it so much, he decided to stay, and he built a kingdom here. When...
Is Barovia named after his father, then?
It is. Barovia is named after King Barov.
Well, and his mother's. They're two names joined together, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's
What's
just
his mother's name?
Ravenloft. Ravenloft is named after his mother.
Yeah, but what's her name?
Ravonia or something like that.
So Barovia.
No, it's Barov. It's specifically...
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, but it's specifically Barovia is named after the king. The castle's named after the king.
Okay.
And it does say that specifically. He has a younger brother. His younger brother is far more...
He's a real
What's his younger brother's name?
Social guy.
What's his younger brother's name?
Sergey.
Is it not Sergey? I'm just fucking with you now, Dan.
Getting upset.
Dan, répétez-moi. Sergey.
I'm pretty sure the G is silent.
Sergey. Sergey.
His name was
So
Sergey.
Sergey from System of a Down, he was far more personable. He wasn't as militaristic. Strahd was a very strong, silent, like he was a very powerful man.
He was militant.
He was very militant.
Prestigious.
Very prestigious. Very like high and noble kind of character. And Sergey, his little brother, was far more easygoing. He was a player. He was a party kid. He was the Prince Harry to Prince William.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Right?
All right, so hold on.
Man.
So before you get into anything further, really broad strokes this, because this is all spoiler territory moving forward.
Yeah. So, long story short...
What's Prince Harry's real name? Go.
Harold.
Herman.
Henry.
Really?
Carry on.
Anyways. Well, no, that makes sense, because...
What's Henry short for?
Henrold.
Thank you.
Are you sure it's not Herons? Because Terry is short for Terry. No, anyways.
Not mine.
It's Hari and Turi.
Oh, yeah.
If I've learned anything.
Yikes. Anyways, so very broad strokes. Strahd had some despair happen in his life.
Yeah.
And because of that despair...
his brother did not help the situation.
Brother definitely did not help the situation. Strahd made a deal...
The curse happened.
Which ended up in the curse, and now his kingdom of Barovia has been transported from the prime material plane to this demi-plane in the Shadowfell.
Yeah.
And he has been cursed as a vampire. This whole curse is part
It's
of his...
pronounced vampire?
Vampire.
Well, no, vampire. Vampire.
I hate this bit almost as much as the fucking forgetfulness bit.
What? Which
We're
bit?
going to talk about bullywugs, guys!
Come on, Dad. We gotta get through it.
Come on, Dan.
It's him. It's all his fault. Anyways, we are tasked as a party to go in, and you are stuck in this demiplane, and you have to get out. And Strahd is the eternal watcher of this demiplane, so you're very much led to confront him about this.
But when the whole valley, his realm, moved into Shadowfell, it took the citizens with
The
them.
citizens and everything, and it's a massive valley. There's a massive
And
lake.
no one can leave.
No one can leave. There's this fog surrounding the entire
It's
thing.
like a mystical fog that fucks you up if you go into it, right?
Exactly, yeah. So Strahd himself then spends the rest of his life,
Unlife.
trying to recapture some of the joy he had in his previous life.
I feel like you just give him a puppy. The whole thing is just done.
No, you're leading me into spoiler territory, so I'm going to shut that right the fuck down right now.
He has. What does he have? Hellhounds or something?
He's got a nightmare.
He's got. It's on the front. I'm sure he's got like a.
Oh yeah, he's got hellhounds.
Yeah, he's got
100%.
hellhounds
He's got
with him.
hellhounds.
Okay, all right. So, I don't want to go any further into Strahd because now we're in huge spoiler.
Huge spoiler territory here. Yeah.
How would I gotta ask? How do you guys change it up?
Well, should I tell you what I did? Or rather what you guys did?
Yeah, because Dan, you ran through it and it was radically different. Than
It was radically
Well,
different.
my party that ran through it, instead of keeping it as a small knit, tight group of investigative party members that went and tried to figure out how to kill Strahd strategically, just began to rally up NPCs, built relationships so well that I couldn't even argue it. I couldn't be like, no, these people that you've convinced that Strahd is bad do not want to help you. Like they did. Found some more powerful people and essentially just came up with this huge battle strategy, and we just had a big military battle from 3 fronts.
Four fronts because we had a spy.
4 fronts, that's right. So we had a spy inside who fucking married him.
The Black Widow of Barovia.
And was turned into, Aranith, the Wood Elf Ranger, became the Black Widow of Barovia, and she was turned into a vampire as well.
Vampire.
Willingly, sorry, excuse me. Willingly turned into. And then we had our monk led a small group under the sewers of Ravenloft and came in through the crypts, I believe.
Yeah, they were like a assault.
We had a main force smash their way through the front gate and enter the castle through the front, and then we had an aerial force of were-ravens
and
who were carrying holy water bombs that they rained down from above on the force, and they went against, I think the first force they went against with a horde of zombies.
A horde of zombies, and
then they had the guards that were coming in. Then they started getting to the lieutenants, and then they came across one of the Strahd's captains, which was actually my character Titus, who just legitimately, it was as an NPC at the time, legitimately did not realize that he was fighting for the baddies, and asked himself that question: am I fighting for the bad guys? Yes, you are. He was turned around and joined the party as an NPC. We fought. You guys fought a druid who was in like a big tree mech thing that you made short work of.
And then we trapped Strahd and a couple of his lieutenants.
What happened was you went in from the top, and Strahd and a couple of his lieutenants tried to prevent you going up the tallest tower, I think, and were trying to cause damage on you from above.
4 reasons.
But the force that went in through the front met up with the force that came in through the sewers. You guys met together, right? And then you essentially fought your way up the tower. He couldn't escape.
Because there was a fucking Dracolich sitting at the top.
Was sandwiched. There was, spoiler alert for a very important magic item in 3, 2, 1. Fuck you guys. There was a Sunblade involved, and Strahd, and I played it fair, went to jump over a huge gap in the tower to escape, rolled a 1 and fucking landed down in front of the cleric.
That was me. Yeah.
Who had
I wumped him.
Who had, and you had that warhammer that you could choose to detonate.
Yeah.
You could choose to detonate and essentially did something very similar to fireball damage, but you as the activator also took that damage.
But it was radiant damage. And he was invisible when he fell, and nobody else knew it, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's that noise?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna hit it. Whomp. Boom. And I think there were 2 more rounds after that, but that
2 more rounds, but he was stuck
was
there, action economy, but when he died, he was within the light of the Sunblade. And so he was just done. And so I was like looking at my notes, like there was just like silence as I just like flicked paper, and I was like, you guys fucking killed him. Like I didn't know how to get out of it. I was like, there was like all of this huge big build up, and then I was like, I guess he's fucking dead. And then we kind of went from there. But so we did it as a big military battle.
Yeah, the way we did it differently is we kind of went through as and the campaign itself kind of lends itself. You're building a bit of a resistance force, like you're building an army. You have to take them down. But there is, I don't think this will have very many spoilers in it just to drop the name, but there's the Argynvost. And what I would recommend to a DM who wants to make this different, make this unique, focus more on the Argynvost side of the story.
Argynvost? All right, I'm not going to talk till
I'm going to murder you.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. A large tragedy is going to happen in your life, and you're going to get shunned off to the Shadowfell.
Pronounced traitor.
No, you even fucking start.
Okay, go on, Dad. We got to wrap this sucker up.
But anyways, focus on the Argynvost side of things. They've got their own tragic story involved with that entire family. And my character, when I played, was the last heir of the Argynvost, and I went in.
Okay, so what did you play? What was your...
You're not going to like this. I played a Silver Dragonborn.
I knew he was going to say Silver Dragonborn. I knew he was going to say Silver Dragonborn. I almost said it before.
But there are reasons like that, reasons for all of those choices that I made with that character.
Sure.
So there are so many different factions you can focus on. There are some very big names that make their way into this thing as well. So if you look for them, you can focus in on this campaign in many different ways. You don't necessarily have to have Strahd as the big bad guy. You could use this thing as a blanket with which to build up from.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. All right, team, we got to wrap this thing up. Any more final thoughts on the Shadowfell, or even anything about Curse of Strahd or Strahd himself?
I don't feel like we did enough justice to the idea that there are ghosts and spirits just littered throughout the Shadowfell. And even Curse of Strahd, you're going to run into your ethereal bad guys as well. We didn't really touch on them.
They're undead everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot of... but I find it's more zombies. I didn't see a lot of skeletons. There are vampire spawns, there are zombies, there are... I'm looking for will-o-wisps as well, like moving through the fog. So I guess that's my final thought, is there's more options than just... just vampires.
And don't have them just... They can be more than just terrain. They can also be trap, right? And we got to really reinforce this. There's an entry in one of the books that I read in preparation for this episode that said there is a castle that has specters and zombies and ghouls and everything that float around the tower, spinning in circles, and you can't get to it by air because they're just floating undead all the way around this thing, and it creates this very awesome, like almost straight up never-ending story image of this, evil castle with the things spinning around it. So
nice.
Okay, I went to Fantasia.
Fantasia works too. Yeah.
Well, that's it for this week's episode on Shadowfell. Remember to tell your friends, and they can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as dozens of other podcast apps. You can also find us at itsamimic.com, or you can email us at info@itsamimic.com. Thanks for tuning in to the It's a Mimic podcast. My name is Terry. On my left is Adam. On my right is Dan. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to It's a Mimic. Check us out online at itsamimic.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have questions you would like answered by the guys on the show? Send them an email to itsamimic@gmail.com. Tune in every Tuesday for more.
What is your favorite vampire from which fandom? Now, this can be a controversial topic, and so hopefully I don't have to disown either of you as friends. But what is your favorite vampire?
Hold on. If Dan says Twilight, we're going to fucking execute him, right?
I don't even recognize that as an option.
Okay.
You're talking to a guy who has problems with Harry Potter because they fucked with monsters.
Just saying the name, or...
So...
It's Harry Podler.
Oh yeah, Harry Podler, right. No, Twilight is an abomination, and it was hard.
Can we roll initiative for this? So that
sure. That's what we do.
Is that what
Why
we do?
did I go for the bone?
Eight.
I got a 3.
So Terry, what's
17.
your favorite kind of vampire?
You know what, guys? I'm going to tell you. Back in the day, this may have been seen as a little bit of a whatever. I'm not going to be very good with words today, guys. I just got off a flight from Texas, and I live in Vancouver, so it's very far away. But I really like the Anne Rice vampires. I go balls deep into like Armand and Lestat and Marius.
Armand would let you go balls deep into Armand.
I knew someone was going to bring up Lestat.
Not Lestat as a character. I did like Armand a lot. I really liked Marius. I liked all of the really old vampires.
Yeah.
I like Marius because he was like Roman.
I've only seen the movies.
Well, both of the movies. So both the Tom Cruise Interview with the Vampire,
which I loved. I thought it was fantastic.
Was it Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt. And Antonio Banderas.
And Kristen
Antonio
Dunst.
Banderas was Armand, right?
Yeah.
He played Armand.
Yeah.
That is good for Armand. It was good, but not great because it was a bit Tom Cruise-y, and it's like, that's not however you kind of imagine it.
Yeah.
But then when they did Queen of the Damned with Aaliyah and Stuart Townsend, is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
That was like, first of all, it didn't make sense why they went straight to the Queen of the Damned for me. Because that's like the third book in the series or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And then it was just like completely off the rails.
Still makes more sense than the freaking Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah,
their release for the like big movie, like the big motion picture movie things is bonkers. I don't get it.
But I love those vampires because they're almost kind of alien in that they do what we would consider to be horrific things, but to them is just necessary. It's just normal. They're like, this is just the way it is. They will never understand it.
It's like a cultural difference.
They're like the humans will never understand. They're lower than us. They're food. And I love that. I love that idea of power, and I kind of wish it was real. But
yeah. I was next, so I know a lot of people are gonna be like, Dan's just gonna say Dracula, and yes, Gary Oldman Dracula is like,
well, Dracula's good.
It's pinnacle for me.
Really, Gary Oldman, you didn't go Bela Lugosi on this one.
Oh no, Bela Lugosi was too cheesy.
Have you ever sat down and watched it?
Yes.
Then you're wrong. Anyways, you keep doing your thing.
Yeah. But this will be where Terry and I really agree deeply.
Weird.
Underworld the zombie, the vampires, and the
just Kate
lichens.
Beckinsale. Kate
Beckinsale. She's on my top 3.
Kate Beckinsale's my number 1.
She's my number 2, dude.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Who's your number 1?
Jennifer Love Hewitt. I'd let her do things to me.
Really?
You're that age. A Party of 5 was big when you were a kid.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
My number 3.
I'm going to correct you. What's your number 3?
Jason Momoa.
Jason.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. I see it, man.
Yeah.
I see it. I feel you. Okay, here's the correct answer to that question. Number 1, Kate Beckinsale. Number 2, Evangeline Lilly. Number 3, Jessica Biel. I won't hear anything different anytime.
No, I'm on board with that list. That's a good list.
Okay.
Anyways, but
Dracula.
I really like how they did vampires in the Underworld series. The Long Life, there's that little bit of mysticism to them, that also advanced technological aspect that they were keeping from the rest of the world. I just love all of that, the political nonsense, and I love Bill Nighy as well. So. Adam?
Okay, first of all, you're both wrong, and here's why. Vampires need to be freaking scary. And I feel like they're just not in those. They're action, right?
Yeah.
Or I like the alien aspect, but if I'm going to go alien, I want Nosferatu, right? But I want them to be legitimately frightening. 30 Days a Night, right? If you come back from Texas and you didn't say from dusk till dawn, you're not thinking straight. Bordello of Blood. Let's get into like the fangs, the nasty, horrible shit that comes with the vampires. And my favorite scary vampire of all time, and I think it's because it was in a TV series. And so they had the opportunity to really draw it out and play with it and show you the horrible mentality of it. Was it the vampires in Buffy? I freaking love the Buffy. And
dancing around like a magnificent poof is clearly thanks enough. My favorite quote from the entire friggin' Buffy
and Angel. Angel is probably my secret favorite show of all time.
Really?
Yeah, my favorite character of all time is Wesley from Angel, because he is, in my opinion, the only truly tragic character besides Jesse Pinkman. There's no truly tragic character besides those two that's available in media. So
at least popular nerd media, right?
Yeah, I mean you can find the side characters, but those were main characters that never caught a goddamn break, and that's what I want. Hurt my characters, or hurt my heroes.
Yeah,
I want to see the spiral down into darkness, and they never come back. Yeah, that's engaging to me, and I think that's what's so cool about vampires is they are the darkness, and they're never coming back from it. Right? Nope, never mind. I changed my mind. Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Nobody said Blade, interestingly enough.
Well, I thought about Blade.
Yeah, Dan said Blade when he said Underworld, right? That's the same damn thing.
They're very similar. Yeah.
It's just vampires in latex.
I also liked
that's how I like my vampires.
And this is a controversial opinion. I liked the vampires in Blade 3.
With
the jaws that opened up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm into the Predator vampires.
Yeah, I liked those guys too.
Anyways, you like the more monstrous type vampires?
Yes, my monsters need to be otherworldly, but they pass as human, right? And this is the same thing with playing Vampire the Masquerade, the game. You weren't going to ask me this question without me bringing it up. You can play otherworldly vampires.
What's the goal of that game? The sex.
It's not the sex. The goal of Vampire the Masquerade is the same as Dungeons and Dragons. No, it's the same as Dungeons and Dragons. It's to promote your character and have a fully fleshed out character that has an interesting arc, right? It's just very modern time, and there's a lot of political intrigue between Sire and Bloodlines. So it's like the Prince of the City and all of that.
So
other political. It's very political intrigue. There's not a lot of murder. It's very kind of Call of Cthulhu in the sense that it's also incredibly deadly. Yeah. So,
no one said Sookie Stackhouse novels or anything like that.
Oh shit! I forgot about True Blood.
Yeah,
I also forgot about True Blood.
I haven't seen it. I don't know anything about it.
I've only seen a couple clips.
It could have been amazing if they went dark, but they went teeny bopper with it. They should have gone dark as shit.
Well, that's what I liked about the vampires in Supernatural too. Like I like the vampires that are almost animals.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? They're like 30 Days of Night when they're sitting there communicating and howling and at each other and making weird clicking noises, and they've all got that weird head twitch movement. Man, that's so awesome. I want to see more of that shit. Yeah. Right?
No, I agree.
So,
would you rather be a werewolf or a vampire?
Vampire.
Werewolf.
Vampire.
Werewolf.
Werewolf.
Yeah, 100%.
100% werewolf.
I like the raw animalistic power that comes with it.
Yep.
And you can just do that like half change where you kind of look like a vampire anyway.
And then, once you change back, you forget about what you did the previous night. So, I mean, no consequences.
Doesn't clear your soul, and you probably left a whole bunch of evidence leading right to your door. And you
do vampires have souls?
And you are always waking up naked in gardens.
That just sounds like 21-year-old Dan anyways. So, I already have to practice.
True. And the question of do vampires have souls depends on whether you're going like from a more of a mythological or like demonic type vampire, or you're going more of like a scientific change where they've just become monstrous.
Oh, did you guys see The Strain?
Yes.
No. The Strain was cool, where vampirism was a disease.
Yep.
It was very cool.
That. They were very similar to zombies in that sense as well, like including their movements because they had
I loved the worm.
They had the ones who were managing their disease well, and then if you did not feed for a while, you slowly descended into zombies.
Guillermo del Toro wrote that trilogy, and I have it if you guys want to, because as good as the show was, it was kind of campy sometimes. Man, the books were freaking amazing. I can put them down. It was fantastic.
Cool.
Nice. Well, the reason we're talking about vampires is because we can tie that all in with the topic of today's podcast, which is, guys, and I'm excited for this one, we're talking about the Shadowfell.
Gothdammit.
Oh my god.
That's the
title.
pun at the